Are we ready to jump into our main topic today?
Sure.
Wins and fails of 2022. I when I was sitting here like kind of like brainstorming kind of what I would think would be a fail, nothing really kind of pops to mind. I like outside of like there's been a lot of like craziness. Like when we start to say like, okay, things could have gone better, but like I feel overall, and maybe this is like short term memory, but in terms of gaming and this year, in terms of MMOs in this year, like all in all, like it's I think been a very positive year of growth, of updates, of news and whatnot. But yeah, that's what I kind of figured we would kind of try to bundle it and see if there's anything that Chris felt like could have gone better that I'm not remembering overall, or whatnot. So I'm going to toss to you. Do you have a what would be a first win or a first fail of 2022 for you, Chris?
I had to Google when Halo Infinite released.
Yeah, it didn't release in 2022.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't do anything with their 2022.
Oh,
So,
it delayed. So Infinite definitely did not is not in a win category.
I think that's been a struggle. Um, I think WoW's rocked the year. I think Final Fantasy's rocked the year. Um, yeah, I think Halo really struggled this year. Just as far as things that you could do that just aren't a good idea. I think gaming conventions have tried really hard to come back
Oh
online this year,
man,
and
gaming
every
conventions.
single one is just like, and everybody got sick. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Well,
stop.
even to the point where like
Yeah,
it's like
we
people are like
didn't make it
we're
up.
gonna have this we're gonna be safe and and it's like no, like if you're gonna go
TwitchCon was rough.
oh yeah,
People
TwitchCon
got sick.
2022.
People got sick.
People got hurt.
Adriana got hurt really bad. Other
Yeah.
people got hurt too. Um, not great. Not great. When did OnlyFans try to say, yeah,
That was
so
this year.
we're done.
We're
We're
done
done
with
being an adult content site. We needed you at the beginning to get
but
us off the ground and get us some hype and make us some money.
but
But now that
now
we've made
yeah.
some money, we'd really rather you be a group of people that we'd like to just use and discard. And is that going to be a problem with anybody? Uh, yeah, yeah, it is. Like, yeah. Turns out you have to be loyal to the community that built you, or you're the jerk.
Well, it's like, and
Um,
we're gonna hard pivot into a family friendly, advertiser friendly site. Like we've got a bunch of advertisers just waiting to be like, yeah, we're all about that new OnlyFans site. So
And then they came out and were like, it's the payment people. The payment people won't let us process payment. And then a bunch of payment companies came out and were like, we'll take that money. Like,
yeah,
we like money. Is the
well,
money a lot of money? Yeah,
yes,
then we're in.
we'll
Like, then
process those
we're in.
payments. Yeah,
100%. We're in. Um, so yeah, I think when it comes to like big wins this year, gaming as a whole has won. All of the news around gaming, the little one-offs, gambling on Twitch, those have been the big falls of the year.
would
I
you
don't know that that's
consider
a
them
fail.
getting? Would you
I
consider
don't know
them
that's a
getting rid
fail.
of
I think,
gambling on Twitch a win?
well, they didn't get rid of all gambling. They got rid of the gambling that was the most hated for the least profit. Just as the pessimist in me. Like the pessimist in me is like, oh, so you're gonna take a moral stand?
Oh, great. Oh,
Okay. Only to the degree to which it will not affect shareholders because you have an ethical liability. Like, you are liable to your shareholders. You have to do what's in the best interest of the shareholder. So you need to be able to prove objectively, beyond a doubt, that losing money in the short term is better for the shareholder in the long term. And that's a really hard thing to prove. So a lot of companies just don't go anywhere near it.
yeah.
So, like, yes, I think it was a good thing that we've started to kind of separate these things. I think their ability to separate where advertising money goes and start to say, you don't have to decide to advertise on Twitch or not on Twitch. You can specify by category. That's something that YouTube does, where like makeup channels just make more money. And like,
Mhm.
that's okay, because the alternative is makeup companies going, I don't really want to be in front of a how to fix my car video. So I guess I'm just not going to advertise on your platform. So like, it is better when these companies can sell ads granularly. And what that does mean is there might be companies out there that say, I'm willing to advertise on Twitch, but nothing that's 18 and up.
Right.
And so all of a sudden they get kicked out of horror streams, they get kicked out of excessive profanity streams, and they get kicked out of a stream where somebody's in a hot tub with a horse head running their face into a microphone or whatever that clip was. I didn't have context, and I didn't feel that if I found context to that
Then it would
clip
be
that it was
better.
going to help.
Oh,
I was
that
like, I don't think this
I
is
get it
getting better.
now. I
Like,
understand
like
it now.
I saw the clip and was like, I don't need more. Like I like that. That was plenty. I don't even know that I wanted that image in my head, but it's there now.
I think we've seen another big loss. I'd be curious that we haven't talked about this. Smash tournaments and Nintendo.
Oh, Nintendo, what are you doing?
Yeah.
There is not
we
a
want you
game
to
in the
keep
company in the
continuing.
world that has more fondness around the games they make, the IP they own, the image they manage, and the significance they are to families and solo gamers worldwide.
Yeah.
There is no better shining castle on a hill. But as you walk up to that castle, there is a moat with alligators. They are shooting crossbows. Like, my God, they really know how to like. The Switch doesn't need an Ethernet port in the dock. Like, we don't need internet connectivity. We don't need third-party run tournaments that are just fan enjoyed. Like, they just continually make it hard to be passionate about their games. For years, they were like a whole like, we don't want YouTube videos made about Nintendo games.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, like that was okay. You're going to apply to this program, and we're going to like approve, and it's just going to be really painful.
We applied just to see what it was like because we were an MMO channel, and so it's like, well, they'll own all of our Nintendo stuff. That doesn't hurt us.
Yeah,
let's just go see what it's like.
They would take a percentage. They took a cut off of any Nintendo video as a part of that program, and eventually they were like, it turns out
videos that made like 60 cents, and it was like, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to section off the Nintendo's portion. Okay.
All right. Go for it. Oh my gosh. It was Nintendo this year. It's so funny because they're so held like their consoles sell, their games sell. They're like, yeah, we're fine in our sandbox. We're going to keep doing our business as usual. And at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, man. Like, imagine if I saw a clip from one of the guys running one of the Smash tournaments. He's like, guys, this is not profitable for them. It's not like these Smash tournaments have been bringing in all kinds of money and everybody's just like, yeah, we're making all kinds of money and Nintendo wants their cut. No. He's like, we're losing money. This is literally just us being passionate. We would, okay, if Nintendo shuts us down, let's go to the 7-Eleven and we're gonna play. You know, like we're just gonna play this game that we want to play.
Steven Sharif in his mansion flexing his MLM millions.
Yeah.
Like it pans to these guys on Zoom that are all the organizers, and behind them, like every single one of them in the background's like an IKEA shelf. Like they're just people like the rest of us. They're just people.
What do you think? What would you think would be a moment where people would literally like turn on Nintendo? Because no matter what Nintendo does, that frustrates gamers.
Do you remember the Mario app dropping? People said, "I'm never going to do that." And then it like shattered records. Like it was fine.
Right.
No, people are really mad at the quality release of Scarlet Violet for Pokemon.
Yeah.
I went to go buy my copy for my nephew because that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
They had one copy left.
It gets patched too. Like it's like, okay.
Which like I also remember my wife's like, is he not gonna have fun? And I was like, oh no. I looked back at what I was as a kid and I looked at adults at the time that were reviewing games. A game being good or garbage from an adult had no bearing on if I had fun.
Oh,
if
yeah.
I was really excited, I could still have fun. If the game didn't have enough content, I didn't have fun. And I looked it up. Looks like it has all the standard content of a Pokemon game. It's just not graphically beautiful. And in my mind, he's drawing ponitas in his notebook and like writing down strategies while he's in class of what he wants to do when he gets home to take on a various trainer. Graphics are not the thing. Like he's having... Like it's making his mind explode. And so like, let's just get him another game and keep letting his mind explode. Like I'm just excited because through 2020, he was right at the age where they were supposed to be kind of like advancing their reading really rapidly.
Yeah.
And his parents tried very, very hard and care very much for him, but it turns out are not educators. And so they didn't have the ability to kind of keep him on reading pace. Mm-hmm. And so he kind of slipped behind. And I don't think he's alone in that. I think 2020 is we're going to look back and we're going to see decades of ripples in our education system to this whole generation of kids that just had one chapter of education kind of ripped out. And then just said, I don't know, you deal with it. And so
good luck, future selves.
And so like a lot of what's been catching him up is he's been reading some of these little book series.
Yeah.
And he's really into them. And so then he's having all these questions. But then they said he's been coming downstairs with these like 2 and 3 syllable words, and he's getting those from Pokemon. And so Pokemon is teaching him to read.
Yeah,
and
that's what Final Fantasy 6 did for me.
Helping.
Yeah. I would take so it was Final Fantasy 4 and Final Fantasy like 6, because that's how it was 2 and 3 in the US. And I would get the I'd write down like words that I didn't know, and I would take them to my teachers in school and be like, how do I say this? Like, I don't even know how to say this word. And I didn't take all of them because I was calling Shibobos for the longest time. And
he said all paralysis the other day.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Like, that's huge.
And he knows it comes from a lightning type. Like, it's like that's
he may misunderstand the source, but he understands the lack of movement associated with it.
Yeah.
You don't get to take your turn.
It's like, oh, yeah. I think it would be interesting to see like with Nintendo, because I see a lot of hope. I see Chad was even kind of talking about like the Switch 2. I don't know. Like it seems like we're about to hit January, and January is the year where, like, at least on my YouTube algorithm feed, I see is this the year it started off with Switch Pro. Switch Pro was like year 1 and year 2 and year 3 of the Switch. And then it slowly morphed into, is this the year we're going to get the Switch 2? We're going into year 6 of the Switch, right? Like at some point, Nintendo, you will make a new console, we assume. I mean, unless they're just happily printing money. But I think from a
I don't know, the Wii gave way to the Wii U, and we were like, go back.
Whoa!
So I wouldn't give up the Switch era too soon. I'm really enjoying it.
It would be interesting to see though, because like I got a Logitech G Cloud yesterday, and so I've been kind of testing that out with like New World on GeForce Now and with X Cloud, right? And one of the things that I found is that device is great, especially with xCloud and the kits, because we've been playing a lot of Forager. xCloud is just this weird thing because it's not like all the games that you have on Xbox. It's like all the ones that are a part of the Xbox Game Pass. So it's like there's this weird disconnect, and I'm like, I'm wondering if this was planned, and then Google was like, oh yeah, we're shutting down Stadia, because like this would be a perfect handheld also for Stadia. But the Switch has cloud enabled games, but they don't enable any other cloud services in and of itself. And so the Switch is slowly becoming a unit that has been a dock. Like, it's just like, I wish there was just a docked version of this, because everything I'm playing handheld isn't made by Nintendo anymore. And I do wonder if that's going to be something that they were so comfortable where they were that despite having the library and the nostalgia factor, they just get leapfrogged by the Steam Deck and by, like, you know, other handhelds that come out that are as of the same quality, but because they're cloud enabled, that they're just putting out way better fidelity. What do you think?
I think a dedicated console would be great, and I think it would sell very well. I think you don't give up the platform; you just keep expanding on it, like how Xbox has become a family of consoles. And create a family of things for a variety of players. And different games may run to different qualities on the various platforms. That's going to confuse the hell out of the consumer, but like, welcome to the PC market is, I guess, where we knew this train was going to stop here. Like, we knew the consoles were going to set the tracks towards PCs and just eventually get there and have all the pros and cons that personal PCs do. And that's what they've done. And it's because they've chased the pros, right? Having a variety of price points, having a variety of kind of hardware availability, and all these different things. And then the cons are, you can't tell a family member to buy you a PC component. It's confusing as hell. And not everybody can set their own up. And it's like, there's like a whole market for that. But like, the one thing that was going to avert it was cloud. And I don't think Nintendo is a company that's set up to be the ones to pioneer their way into the cloud. I don't really want to see what they would do if they pioneered their way into the cloud. Stadia pulling out is a big fail of the year, because cloud as a whole is a huge platform for the future, and anybody could just run it as a loss. Google continuing to come out and say, we're not going to bail on you.
It's got to the point where you're like,
you can probably go back and pull clips of us. And we said, like, okay, let's trust you on this one. But like, you pull this one
and you keep pulling. It's like,
I can't trust you again.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't trust any new product that Google makes ever. It's kind of like where now there's certain seasons, like people are like, oh, this was a great season 1. And I'm like, okay, tell me when it's season 3 at least, because I'm tired of getting into these shows and they get canceled after one season. And it sucks because they kind of need that support in season 1. They've kind of
made Amazon the hero in the room, right? Like people can be mad at Ring of Power, but it's going to get another season.
Yeah.
They're not going to pull it. right? People can get mad about whether or not they like New World, but like, yeah, they gave up on Crucible, but like
That
they've
was kind of the
proven
right call, though.
they
Yeah.
proved, it turns out they didn't just give up on it. They made the right call and they put it to bed so they could spend their effort and their time on somewhere that would work. And they've continued to invest. And somebody asked in comments the other day, I'm sure you see them on Work Team, isn't that game dead? And I was like, well, they've received constant updates, constant content, none of it at any cost to the consumer. And they just laid out a roadmap for another year of that. And then they responded with, oh, I'll probably have to go look at that. It's like, yeah, it's really hard to hate on like, but wasn't that guy a jerk that one time? Yeah. And then he's been working down at the soup kitchen and he's been really nice to everybody around him. And he's been really thoughtful and he's been taking good care of himself and doing everything he's supposed to be doing for a little over a year now.
So it sounds like you're putting
and New he hasn't dropped the ball at all.
Yeah. Sounds like you're putting New World on in the win category for 2022.
Yeah. I think as far as like where could you be based on the first like 3 months, because it launched in like September, so that kind of October, November, December, where could it be after its first 90 days? It was like, yeah, you got a bunch of hype at the beginning, all new MMOs do. The hype fell off naturally. You have a lot of flaws. And we have no idea if you're actually going to roll out additional content. You've said you are, but like words are easy.
Right. Yeah,
we run a YouTube channel where all we do is put out words. It's super easy. So like, and so like actual content is hard. Actually hitting the publish button is hard. Will they actually hit publish on content? And 1.8 dropped yesterday. 1.7 was a smash. Like I'm having a blast.
The only fail was like, that they missed on their leaderboards, and the director came out and apologized for that, because I was like, originally then it got pushed.
But it was a delay, not a.
Well, it's not gone. It's going to come out in February now, but it was like, oh, we're going to make it in December. And then it's like, no, it needs more time. And honestly, my time with their leaderboards, I was like, there needs to be a little bit more here. It's a good start, but it would be better if it had a little bit more meat on the bones when especially came down to things that are tracked. Even if it was outside the leaderboards, like I want more stats, like just like personal stats, like how much did I, how much time with this weapon, or, all these little things. It's the baseball nerd in me. It's like, let's get some stats. Let's track everything, because we know it's Amazon. We know they're tracking everything.
That stuff in Lich King, maybe.
Yeah, and
when they added all that.
And when what's interesting about like that is that they put out like these interesting reports with insane, cool, interesting stats that are obviously like about the community, and it's like, we know you're tracking it. like let us see our individuals. Like that'd be kind of cool, because you say, how many times did you die to Thorpe? Okay, well, let's look at that. Like how many times? Oh, that was 10 billion kills. How many did I contribute to that total? It's like, okay, that's gonna be interesting.
WoW did that, and they added a bunch of little random ones, like how many times have you played the world's smallest violin as an emote? And because I used to play it like when somebody died to trash in a raid, and in my raid group, I was like 10 smallest violins behind the person with the most. Mm-hmm. And so then it became like at the end of every pull, if you were top DPS, you'd play the world's smallest violin for everybody behind you. And so then I created an emote where every time I played it, I play like 10 world's smallest violins. So like, I don't know what my number is. It's thousands. I can also tell you that one night my friend and I just sat there in town and just played them at each other and like just spammed it. It doesn't really do anything that bothers anybody. And just spammed it. It just fills the log with emotes. It will kick you from the server. Like it will absolutely go, stop, knock it off. So little stats are fun. Yeah. So I think where they struggle is like most damage done, but then they've had stat squishes and stuff. So like that starts to kind of break. And like, and there was so much inflation on damage, right? Like you had 100,000 damage because you played in this expansion. Now we do 100,000 a second or whatever. And it's
what was cool to hear, especially from YoshiP, is like in terms of the packets, like it's like, guys, we're starting to see the beginning of network packet issues because of the amount of damage that's being calculated.
We're sending too many exponents.
All right, cool. Like good to know.
Okay, so let's talk about the big hardware guys in the room.
Okay,
Sony versus Xbox. First of all,
I don't think anybody is.
Why are PlayStation 5s still out of stock?
I think my theory.
You think they're selling that many more than Xbox?
No, I think my theory is that Microsoft has enough money that they have more shops that they're able to get the silicon, and they're more willing to purchase it. Like they just have a better, like process and better kind of, shipping that Sony has access to. And so when you start to think about market cap, like Okay, yeah. Sony's competing. They're buying. Square Enix eventually got new servers for 14, but they weren't on top of the list. They were
New
over
World
them.
passed him.
Right. It's like, right. You have these like all of a sudden everybody's just like bidding on it. But I think in terms of a win, we've seen an easing of that. I actually started seeing PS5s out in the wild, and that was wild for me to see because I had never seen one in a store, and I just literally walked into Walmart and I was like, oh, there's a PS5. And then I was a little sad because I was like, yeah, like financially, like I got to refill the savings account before I start buying a PS5, and hopefully that will be done before Final Fantasy 16 drops.
Before PS6, when they tell you people love console generations.
Oh yeah, they love them. And then Sony going like, oh, turns out we should.
I've loved Game Pass this year. So
Yeah.
like I would say that Sony's the company that's made me angry over and over. Like all of them being mad about Activision Blizzard because they think that Microsoft is going to do exclusives. And then you look back in the history and the only COD related exclusives have been on PlayStation. It's like, buddy, you got to stop looking in the mirror and yelling at Xbox.
Yeah.
Like it's you. So I haven't seen any PS5s, but
Well,
like
you did.
I don't
like
shop it.
Jay says that they've had them in since the summer.
Okay, so
they're starting to roll out. But you were out in Turkey helping your sister.
I did see them in Turkey.
And you saw like an entire we're like that's where they've been.
A whole pallets.
Yeah.
And I think I tweeted out one of the pallets.
Yeah, you did. And I was like, oh my gosh. And people were like, dadgummit, if we had known, hey Chris, just grab some and let's go. Oh my gosh, that was wild.
Yeah, I was in the Istanbul airport, and there were whole pallets of PS5s all throughout the like toy shop.
Yeah.
Like just like, oh, I don't know where, put that one over there, I guess.
Yeah, just another pallet of PS5s, okay. I think we'll see that easing up even further into 2023 because there's just a lot of craziness over the last couple of years. Same thing with the game. So it's that 2022 is like, I think kind of just like an interesting year in terms of getting the hardware flowing back out.
Hopefully it's in stock all of holiday season so we can start to see these consoles really, because people try to compare their sales numbers, but their sales numbers aren't real because their sales numbers are something less than the total number of people that are both willing and able to buy.
Yeah.
Right. And so like people who are willing but don't have $600, you're not going to help the number go up. And so like we can't help you with that. People who have $600 and don't want to buy it,
see, I'd put this into a big
they're
win.
going to stay out of it.
I'd put a
the
big
Istanbul
win.
Airport has a toy shop. The Istanbul Airport is
everything.
like the world's largest mall. It's enormous and it's wonderful. I had a friend that was going to vacation. They were going to vacation in Turkey and Greece for their honeymoon.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, which order should we be in? And I was like, well, since when I land, I always leave an airport, I would depart from the Istanbul airport because if you're going to get stuck anywhere because of a flight delay, it's a beautiful airport to get stuck in.
I would say a big win for 2022, PC gaming. We see Sony making their way, releasing God of War, Spider-Man, more of their games coming to PC. And so I think PC gaming in 2022 has had a great year. And that's interesting because you bring up consoles and things like that. And generally speaking, I play more games on PC and or cloud than I do actually on my Xbox. And if I had a PS5, I would bet on my PS5. I just rarely, for me, especially where I'm at in life, do I find like, oh, I'm going to be in this room where the device is and I have time to play. Usually if I'm in a room where a device is, my kids have taken over that device and I end up playing whatever the heck they end up playing.
There's also been some great contagious single player games. Vampire Survivors was an indie game that came out this year and took it by storm.
Yeah.
Dwarf Fortress just released and is dominating. Elden Ring released this year. So like there have been some great games. And so as PC hardware comes back online, and a lot of that has to do with crypto. I have a buddy that runs several crypto rigs and he's like, hey, if you know anybody that needs a cheap gaming PC, I'm dumping these things. And so he was selling them off. And like it's been a great time to get a hold of a new rig if you have the money, and get into some of these single player games that have become a movement. Like I like playing some games alone, but it doesn't mean that I don't want to have somebody I can talk about it with.
Yeah.
And so having a game that's formed like a community around it, even if it's a single player game, is really, really exciting.
Yeah. I'd say another big win for 2022, tactical JRPGs making their way back. We had Triangle Strategy kicking it off this spring, Tactics Ogre remake. kicking it off this fall. I'm sure there's been a handheld, a few others that I'm just not even thinking of. But it's so cool to see that as a genre, as a type of game, make its way back into and starting to release new and or remaster new. And basically, when we look at the NVIDIA GeForce leaks that happened kind of at the end of 2021, pretty much that's been spot on. Like there hasn't, everything that was in that leaks have been come out. Except for, I mean, there's still things that were on that have yet to come out. And so it does make me think that we will see, and hopefully we'll see, a Final Fantasy Tactics either remake, remaster, something like that in the near future, because it's interesting. I have, like I said, I got the Logitech G Cloud, and it's an Android tablet. Like, so it runs this. It also runs, you can download stuff from the Google Play Store. So I downloaded Tactics because I have it on Google, on Amazon, or Amazon, Android. There's the word. And the downside about it right there for that version is it doesn't recognize that there's a controller attached to it. It's built 100% for touch. And I was like, gosh darn it, how cool would it be if all of a sudden that is? And maybe that's going to be something that we get to see here in the near future. Any thoughts on that, or is there any other wins or fails that we want to cover as we kind of wind down the show?
No, I think in general, it's just been a fun year to think back. It's been mostly positive as we go into the Game Awards and wrap up the year. There are a lot of things on the horizon. Ashes of Creation is still a big unknown. Riot MMO as a name, a working title, is still a big unknown. Final Fantasy 14 just did they just announced their Moogle Tombstone event, which probably means that the patch is on January 10th, which historically means that the live letter would be December 30th. Would they actually have a live letter on December 30th? We'll wait and see.
It's not New Year's. The 30th is the day, so
it's not New Year's.
Yeah. It's a working day. Yeah.
Historically, it would be on December 30th. And so, because it would be 11 days prior to the patch. But they announced the Moogle Tombstone event 36 days out to start 29 days out. Those are exactly from that 10th. And the 10th was my original predicted date. World of Warcraft's been just slowly building over the year. And it looks like people are really happy with Dragonflight. And the year's going to end before they have a chance to be unhappy. So we'll see what happens next year. I think it's been a really good year to be a gamer. It's been a really good year to be a gamer. And most of the stuff that feels like a fail, most of the stuff that feels like a struggle have been social issues around somebody that plays games, social issues about somebody that makes games, social issues around a platform that distributes content about games. But it's not the games. Like when we talk about things like the gambling stuff, when we talk about kind of some of these various snafus that have happened over the year, there has been some drama this year, but it's all been drama outside of the gameplay. Like a lot of the gameplay's just been good. It's been good. Now, Dwarf Fortress Game of the Year, I just saw that pop up. Remember, after nominees are in, you get kicked out to the next year. I don't think it'll win, but like Dwarf Fortress would be a 2023 Game of the Year contender. Like that's the competition it would have to be nominated for. But you don't miss out. Yeah. You don't miss out if you miss the nominee. So there was one year that I think a God of War game or something won, and everybody got really mad because it technically released in the previous calendar year. And it's like, yes, but it didn't get its chance. Yeah. So the fact that it could stay relevant and in people's mind for a whole year is actually harder. So any game that's released in December would be eligible for next year's Game of the Year to be nominated.
So I would say, and we're going to rephase the question though. So what would be your personal Game of the Year? We're not going by Game of the Year award standards of the the Game Awards, which you're going to live stream it right on Thursday.
That's my plan. I didn't realize how late in the day it was.
It's 6:30 p.m. Central, so it's not horrible.
Yeah, but my wife booked reservations, dinner with friends.
Oh, okay. Well, I might be streaming it. So
not anywhere fancy. We just like to reserve because we don't like to wait.
If you're not live streaming it, then I might stream it over on Twitch, etc. Because Julie's tentatively approved that. If you guys aren't following on Twitch, links pinned, links in the description.
Do that.
But yeah. So outside of that, like, what would be your Game of the Year contender? Like, what's the thing that you felt like really was just a great game for 2022? Because there's been a lot of really good ones.
For total impact, I think I'd put it at Elden Ring. I watched a lot of it. I didn't play it. I don't play Souls type games. I think it's the Game of the Year for me personally. For my game time, Final Fantasy 14's rocked the year, and will continue to rock next year.
Mm.
I'm really excited for what WoW's done as far as the interviews and building and all of that. But like they launched in December. And so if you kind of think of that like game of the year type contender, like I wouldn't judge Dragonflight being bad out of the gate. If it started this late, I'd go, let's give them next year to see if they can turn it around.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to necessarily give them credit for being good. They are good, but like, let's kick that out and see if Dragonflight can rock next year. I think Guild Wars is in solid contention. End of Dragons dropped this year back in February.
Yeah.
And they've done a great job communicating. They've done a great job. But I think Final Fantasy is still just home. Final Fantasy is still my number one game. I love Guild Wars an awful lot, and I recommend it constantly to people. I probably feel more comfortable recommending Guild Wars 2 to a stranger than I do Final Fantasy, just because I think that the invitation, the price point to get in, I don't care that the free trial's available, but like the and what you get when you get in. Because I think if you go play 8 hours into A Realm Reborn and say you don't like it, most people are going to go, well, you didn't really try it. And so like, that's a problem. That's a problem. I shouldn't have to go to a restaurant and try 75 items off the menu before I'm allowed to decide if I like it. The first bite should tell me if I like it. And Final Fantasy still doesn't do that. It's my home, but like I'm way past that early stage. I'm way past that new player experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Final Fantasy is probably like the game that's defined my year the most. And Guild Wars is right behind it. But like, if I was seeing an award show go out and somebody took the overall most impact, I would put Vampire Survivors up as the indie and Elden Ring up as the big boy studio game, the major leagues.
Well, it is one of those.
I would be perfectly happy with that.
If I was given an award to Elden Ring, it would easily be that. Like it shows that a good game by a passionate team can sell. Like I think that's one of the things. Now I would still say that's the exception rather than the rule, because generally speaking, like they take their time, they know what they're producing with that game, and it's great to see that it's financially successful. Because my concern is always like, hey, passionate team made an incredible game, no one played it. You know, it's like, well, the money then goes, well, what are people playing? And then it's like, oh, we got another, battle royale. We got another Final Fantasy battle royale that they shut down this year. Like Square Enix has been shutting down some stuff this year. Maybe that's going to be a good thing. They call in the herd. I would say for me, like there's the game of the year is kind of between two, and I don't know if this game came out this year, but we discovered it. For me, I've been playing Forger with the kids. It has been just a great experience. It's easy for the kids to get into. They get excited by whatever pops up on the screen. So there's a level of entertainment that is just like baked into the core experience. And it kind of goes back to what you're talking about, where adults reviewing games and then tied into like people who are actually playing those. And there's a real big difference. There's a real big difference in terms of that. And so it's always been amusing. Like, oh, so-and-so said that this game's garbage. Turns out like, yeah, like if you're a 30, 40-year-old adult, like you're like, yeah, this game doesn't really do much for me or whatever. But then it's like you get the kids playing it and all of a sudden it's like that it literally hung the moon because they never seen any of these things before. This is their first iteration into that. And it feels like such a solid game experience. And it seems to be a lot of fun. And the kids are just like, it's crazy to see like how Maddie has taken her world and built it out versus like anything else. And then for me personally, Triangle Strategy. I love tactical JRPGs, and Square Enix releasing that game, I really, really hope that it has a huge financial impact, because these aren't like big, massive, tentpole games, especially when you're launching within the Octopath's, travel. Like we're going to name it Project something, and then we're just going to eventually drop the project, and that's going to be the name kind of series. But those have been great. I haven't played Alive yet, and I don't know if anybody else has played that, and hopefully that ends up doing well. But that might be something I try to pick up and check out, because I want to make sure I personally support those kind of games. And the thing I would say that I would look forward to the most in 2023 would be, Tactics, Final Fantasy Tactics making its way back out. Or if they decided to start remastering some of the old Final Fantasy games in that Octopath Traveler Unreal Engine. I think that'd be really great to see people kind of re-experience that. And same thing kind of goes, like, I was very, like, a big loss for me, a big fail for me. I know I saw chat talking about, like, Final Fantasy 14 for me. Not at all. Final Fantasy 11. They had its 20th anniversary here in 2022. And literally the response was like, hey, we're going to do a couple of events, in-game events, and we really don't know what we want to do with the game. And I'm like, oh man, oh, you know, like y'all were saying something was you were working on something, and I think that whatever they were working on probably fell through the cracks, or was that mobile remake, you know, Final Fantasy, you know, 11R or something like that. So that was kind of a big disappointment. And I would love to see Square Enix do something with that. Even if they decided to say, we're going to make a Final Fantasy 11 in the Octopath Traveler engine, and we're going to tell the Final Fantasy 11 Vana'diel story, but like in a single player, you know, like turn-based, you know, JRPG, that would be a huge win. That would be something I could be really excited for, because there are people who would love to experience that story, that world, but who haven't had the ability to. Or if you try to do it now, like I mean, you're still fighting the boss, the play online boss to get in, or you have to go through all those other things. Maybe Horizon 11 will be a new entry point for a lot of people to check out the game in and of itself. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Hey, Chris, you got any final thoughts before we wrap up and you continue your day over on Twitch?
No, I'm going to be I don't have any thoughts about this. I'm going to be co-living with Eorzean Archives in a bit, Elio from over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to spend all day talking about what is a Moogle Tombstone, the upcoming Moogle Tombstone event, what you need to get from it, what you don't. But more importantly, when do Moogle Tombstone events happen? When do we find out about them? What do they represent to the community? And what items typically get picked for them? And so we know when something is significant that it got picked versus isn't. I've got a big spreadsheet that we're going to go fill out some other missing areas. And maybe I'll cap tomes and stuff today, but the goal is really to kind of put out the definitive what is a Moogle Tombstone kind of video, whatever that looks like, and then roll that over on Gaming Kinda, because I think there is something in there that's like, okay, this is what this is, and this is what they typically have. And so I've got a couple of them categorized. I know when all of them were. I know how many days they were before a patch. And historically, the magic number is 29. They aren't always 29, but the magic number is that they are 29 days before a patch. And that when they are more than 29 days before a patch, a lot of times we know or feel that patch was delayed by the amount. Like, we already felt that independent, and the Moogle Tombstone is just further evidence. So that's my plan for today. And if I had $600, I also wouldn't buy a PS5. I don't have that much money just laying around right now, but if I did, that wouldn't be where I spent it.
Right. All right. Find out where Chris is going to spend that money here on Twitch. I'm going to hit end broadcast. Is going to spin itself out. So we're just going to wave. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys on Friday.